Welcome back to this episode of Home Built Workshop. Today I'm going to take this assorted stack of different species of wood and make this USB thing a little bit cooler. This past week I had to replace my card reader. It was really slow. It's a USB 2 card reader and it was really running super slow. I tried updating all the drivers and everything for my computer, but it just didn't have the transfer speed, so I figured I might as well upgrade it to a USB 3 as my computer does have USB 3 ports. So I ordered one, but I was in a hurry, didn't read the description, and instead of getting one that has a USB cable, I got one that's almost like a thumb drive. So unfortunately, the USB 3 port on my computer is in the back. So I don't want to have to climb under the desk, reach behind the computer, and plug it in every time. So I have this little USB, it's like a USB hub, kind of a single port hub, and I could use it for the card reader just like it is, but I think we can make it cooler. I've got a bunch of small scraps of different species of wood. I've got some walnut, some bloodwood, some maple, and some mahogany. Let's see what we can do to make this USB hub a little bit better. First, I'm going to resaw the piece of maple on my bandsaw. This would be a lot faster if I did it on the table saw, but I do not have a zero clearance insert, and the piece is going to end up being about the same width as the gap by my blade. And I'm afraid if I did, I'm going to get some nasty kickback, and I really don't want to risk getting hurt. Once it's resawed, I'll run it through my thickness planer just to clean it up. Now I'll cut the mahogany down into a couple of strips that are the same width as the maple. And that quick, I've now got my strips that I can glue up and make a sandwich. It's like mustard on a hot dog. After the glue's had about an hour to set up, I'll scrape off some of the squeeze out. This will make the cleanup a lot easier later. So now I've got what I believe is going to become the body of the new housing for this. I'm going to end up using this piece of bloodwood for the base. It's going to be something like that. I'm going to make two of these, so this will get cut in half. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to make this actually fit the USB. First I'm going to disassemble this old one. It's only held together with a couple of screws in the bottom. I'll just remove those. And there's really nothing holding this thing together. There's really only this little plastic pin right here that looks like everything's friction fit. And there it is. I'm just gonna mess around for a second with a pencil and sketch out a shape that I want to cut these out. So after playing around with that shape for a few minutes, I believe I can actually get both of these pieces out of one. I have to cut this in half on the diagonal. If I screw it up, I've got this other block that we can use to move forward with the project. I'll just sand it down to clean up the cut marks. So this is the part of the build where I actually am a little bit stuck. I kind of think I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure of the best way. So what I need to do is to cut a recess in the bottom so that I can place the USB plug up inside. And I also need to cut a little slot at the front where you'll be able to plug in a thumb drive or other sort of USB thing. I think the process I settled on involves taking the original piece of plastic, tracing out the space at the front where the USB port's going to be, and then using an appropriate size drill bit, I'll remove some of the material to cut that slot. Then I'll flip it around, and using a larger Forstner bit, I'll remove the bulk of the material underneath. These walnut and mahogany shavings make me hungry for a peanut butter cup. I like those colors. Now I'll just clean up that cavity with a chisel. I don't need to clean it up perfect, I just need it square at the front. And the front slot, I'll just use a small file to clean that one up. Well, I've got both of these pieces fitting a USB plug really well. I'm ready to move on to the next step, and I gotta say, I'm really glad that I decided to take one piece and cut it in half diagonally, because I broke two pieces in the process of squaring up the corners, got a little too rowdy with the chisel, and blew right through. So that actually worked out really well. I had to be very gentle with the last one because I didn't want to break it, but had to sacrifice these two to the chisel, and a learning experience. Let's move on. Now I'm just going to take some scraps of maple and cut some little blocks that I can glue inside the cavity. These will just be where I can drive in some screws to secure the bottom. As soon as the glue's dry, I'll sand those little blocks flush. Now I'll just slice my piece of bloodwood in half to make up the two bases. Now I'll drill and countersink the bases for a couple of screws. Now I'll use a Forstner bit to remove a little bit of material from the inside of the base so that I can make a passage for the cable to exit. Now just lightly sand the pieces just to soften the corners just a little bit. As soon as the lacquer's dry, now I just take my USB cable and I'll line it up with the hole, and I'll actually use the other end to plug into it to keep everything in alignment. Now I'll just use some hot glue and glue the plug in place. Now I can just screw on the base using a couple of short wood screws. There it is. My custom little single port USB hub. Now I can access the USB ports that are on the back of my computer without having to climb under the computer. But it's not just a plastic factory made deal, it is a cool multi-species of wood custom made USB hub. I really like the way these turned out. Now there's about a bazillion different ways you could go about making this. I chose to keep mine pretty simple with kind of just some square lines and a couple of angles. So if you want to make these like anything, the sky's the limit. You can choose about any different way to make it. I chose to make mine with the removable bottom. That way if I ever have any problem, maybe the hot glue doesn't hold or something like that, I can easily disassemble it and make any repairs that I need to do and put it back together. You could surely glue it together if you really didn't think you'd need to take it apart, but again, I just want to keep that little option just in case I ever need it. This is not a very difficult project by any means, but for me personally, the most challenging part of it was actually trying to figure out how I was going to hollow out the inside so that I could house the USB port. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it. You just have to figure out the process that works the best for you with the tools you have available. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a fun project I enjoyed making, and it is one that is definitely going to get used a lot because I will be transferring all the video files from my camera through this from now on. So that I know will get a lot of use. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. I appreciate all of your support. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any episodes, and also go down below there and click that little bell icon so that you get notifications from YouTube every time that I post a new video. Like always, social media links are down below in the description, as well as a link to my website, homebuiltworkshop.com. So head on over there, check it out, see what's happening. And until next time, thanks a lot for watching. Now I can't find my glue. I don't know what I've done with it. Huh. Hold please. Somebody didn't clean the glue off the clamps last time they used it, so now the jaws don't close right. I'm sure none of you have ever done that before. Never get that nagging feeling you're going to drive a screwdriver into your hand?
I just finished up one of the cuts for this project, and I removed my earmuffs and I heard this terrible racket. Well, this hailstorm had moved in, and I had no idea because I was too wrapped up in the work. I had to run to the house with a rag over my head so that I wouldn't get hit on the head with some hail.
And I'll get hot glue all over everything. Probably myself too. Just don't get it on your skin, because it hurts. How do I know?